Happy New Year! Valerie Chodine here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I set up my January 2021 journal, Plan With Me 2021, where we focus on the comforts of home and a theme of the month. That was my journal setup, the last page, and now here's the cover page I've chosen for January, and we'll do a paint along in this video. Then the calendar page setup and the gratitude page, where here each month I'm going to set up some doodle pages and a list of what I'm grateful for. Then the reword of the month. In the Plan With Me Premium, I will show how to make these pages and also to do an inspirational activity on the interior pages with prompts and questions, quotes and scripture. I also have a theme of the month, which is water, our most renewable resource in water, a gas as steam, and a solid in ice or snow. And you'll see a bunch of snowflakes in here. Now here are the workflow pages. This can be totally adapted to whatever you do and what you need to do. So I have my art workflow page, and then I have another part-time job, and then on the opposite page, I've left room for notes. Then my calendar page. Okay, I've not done it like this before, so I've used tape instead of lines just in case I want to get rid of the separation and write in the space. Now I know that might sound silly, but I really don't like blank spaces of where I didn't write in my journal. So we'll see how that goes, especially since I've set up the month like that week by week, just this first time. And of course, then you see I have the blank page on the other side to write notes. So we'll just see how this checks out. I'm not sure, but I'm glad to be experimenting and trying something new. And if I don't try it, I won't know. So I plan on finding out a lot and learning a lot about myself and a lot about how I manage time in January. Of course, I can still write on the pages after that. So notice all these little snowflakes that I've done here and there. It kind of is a collection now of snowflakes for this month, and also a reference that I can use for doodles. Now let's start January with the cover page. My theme is Come Unity, and I'll be painting 2 coffee mugs on this sheet of watercolor paper, 140 pound hot press Fabriano paper here. Years ago I did 2 cups or mugs pretty much like this that represented community and trying to come to a place of unity through getting to know each other. So I really feel that the theme is very relevant at this time. And here you can see I'm using a very faint bit of pigment in my water as I put it on with a big brush. Now you can use a big flat watercolor brush or a brush like this, you can see works great too. And I put that tint on so I could see where the water is. I have a very faint line, I'm not sure if you can see it in the film, of the border that I want to stay within, but I want the edge to look organic. And then you can see as I painted those 2 coats of watercolor on there, the first one dried and then the indigo one, I had put some salt on there as well. Now this Himalayan salt just was from a grinder I got at Trader Joe's, and then dried that, and I just love the activity and the little bubbles, and almost looks like tiny snowflakes or frost on that. Now I'm going in with some warmer colors, the colors I used before, which are the raw umber and a bit of the permanent scarlet for warmth on the bottom part and to just make a little bit darker where the cups are setting. After I dry it, I go in and I'm just drawing with my pen. You can use probably a 03 to an 05 size pen. I'm using a micron pen here for my main outline and drawing of my mugs. And I'm giving a little bit of a table to set on, and you can see I'm double outlining with a smaller pen, which is either the 01 or the 005, and then drawing the steam up there, kind of like a conversation going back and forth. Now I'm going in with some Paynes gray and the neutral, which is a black. The black and white mugs represent some of the race issues and some of the things we need to overcome in order to come together in unity. So they're pretty symbolic there. I'm putting some silver paint for the steam, and if you're in the Plan With Me Premium and get this download, you may want to go over some of that with some silver and even gold paint. It is so shimmery and it looks really great in person, but doesn't quite translate as a download. So that's just a tip for that. These little gems of gold represent the conversation of us coming together and understanding one another better. And you can see I've drawn and painted kind of loose hearts in that. I'm adding some whites and highlight with my extra fine Posca paint pen here. Signing it, and I'm spattering it. You'll see a lot of spatters on my work if you look close, and sometimes it's for design reasons, but often it's to cover up some smudges. I'm going to scan it. I've printed this out, and see, on my printer you need to measure on yours to see how it comes out, but it works out that I do 5 1/4 from the edge, and I've decided to use this one here. I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife. That looks good. Then I'm going to use some double-sided tape, permanent adhesive. And it just butts up right on this washi tape, which is nice for my calendar there. And this is included in the Plan With Me Premium. So if you haven't signed up for that and you'd like to, I'd love to have you visit my website at ValerieChaudine.com. Let's get started on making January's calendar. I've drawn this out in pencil, but here's how I did it, and I'll go over it with pen. I am using the stencil. It's Script Sans Serif Planner Alphabet and Grid Stencil. That's a mouthful. It fits in these journal planners. Now, I have to say, the one that I picked, it doesn't fit exactly on the lines, but it fits exactly on the lines on most A5 planner journals, including the Moleskine journals, Lecterm, Archer and Olive, and a bunch of the rest. My journal here is a Wordsworth in black, and it works great, but the grid is like a hair smaller, so it doesn't line up perfectly, but it still works out fine for the journal. Now I'm drawing the banner with the stencil, and it makes it really easy to draw. Of course, you could just do this on your own and draw it out and also letter the words of the months of the year. But a stencil does make it very easy. And then you can connect the lines from the stencil lines that are blank, and it doesn't even look like a stencil. To make the banners really pull together, I put a line around the whole thing, and then see how it just kind of pulls it together and there aren't all those breaks in lines. You could just write numbers for the days of the week and month, and I do that a lot, but it is kind of nice to have something consistent. So I've done these stencils here and then just going back in with little marks to connect the lines, and then it doesn't even look like stencils. One thing great about having the break in between the lines of the grid is that you can put shapes. So this month I'm putting a circle shape, and circle will be my go-to shape of the year, a symbol of wholeness. You could color in the circles or shape that you put in between the lines, or even put dots, like I'm just putting a gold dot in the middle of each circle here. Now to set up for my painting part, I am spraying my paints to activate the paint so they'll be easier to mix on my palette. Now in the Plan With Me Premium, I give these templates for these easy organic shapes. Of course, you could just make them on your own and cut them out of either cardstock like I'm doing here or a piece of mylar. This one is for the side margin in the calendar page. A little piece of washi tape will hold it in place. And then I'm going to get my cosmetic sponges and my paints out so I can paint it. And this I found is a great way to paint and not put too much water on the page, which one thing I struggle with is treating the journal page here like watercolor paper. And it does take watercolor, but it is not like watercolor paper. So I tend to put too much water on it. Well, this kind of stenciling with the sponges is a great way to get around that, and it doesn't wrinkle the paper at all. So I am loving it, and of course, as you can see, using it on the shapes, my homemade stencils, and the other stencil here, the planner banner stencil. Yeah, I kind of go hog wild with this because I'm really loving the results that allow me to even shade there. So now I'm going to put something I think we just need so much right now for the beginning of the year and probably all year, and that is be hopeful. I'm using one part of the stencil here, the script stencil, but you could just write it out, of course. Now I'm going in with a pencil and planning where I'm going to put some snowflakes and coffee beans, and renew being my word and the symbols of renewal being water in all its forms of liquid, water, gas, steam, and snowflakes for the solid, which would be ice too, but snowflakes are so much prettier that I'm going to focus on the snowflakes and different ways of drawing them in this month. Just using my micron pen again. For the average lines I use 0.3, and for the smaller ones I'm using a 0.1. Now I'm drawing a single mug like the one I did on the previous page with the two. And one reason why I chose to use the same mug, which I won't do that each month, is because we need to renew ourselves before we can renew someone else. So this month of January, I'm focusing on how can I renew myself for my sake, but also for the sake of people around me. Now painting a drop of water is kind of fun. You put the light blue on the left side there, and then the shadow on the outside. As you can see, I use the Indigo there, and I can go in with a white paint pen and make that shine that reflects the light, and it will really look like a drop of water. It's so easy and fun. And here's these little marks, the same ones with my brush that I made in the setup of the journal. And once again, going around shading with that indigo blue, which honestly, I just wonder if I'll use it all year. I love it so much. Now, as I'm doing this voiceover, I'm thinking if only someone would have told me to stop here, because I just keep going and going. But in hindsight, which is so easy, I would say stop now. But as you can see, I don't stop now and I keep on going. So I guess one lesson to learn is it's okay to keep on going, and a journal like this is a perfect place to just push the limits. But I really do wish sometimes I would know when to stop. Well, I would go in with this outline of gold. I like doing this, and it really looks so good in person because of the shimmer factor. So, like I said in the setup, I am going to use gold on maybe each of my main pages, just because I am trying to remind myself that each day, each moment in life is precious. I put a piece of washi tape on either side of the calendar page, and this helps me find it when my journal is closed. Usually I would put a tab on there as well, but this year I decided not to use tabs with the thicker paper, and also because I'm fairly certain I'm going to be using 2 journals this year. So this not only frames the pages, but helps mark the month, the calendar page that I use pretty often. And here's the gratitude page, and I'm starting really simply using the stencils. I could just write it, but this is such an easy way to keep my letters consistent, and then just to connect the little lines. So I'm using these handmade stencils that the template is included in the Plan With Me Premium, and I'm going to stencil the background like I have on other pages and keep this pretty consistent. I'm really liking this, it's fun, and the more I've used this watercolor with the cosmetic sponge for stencils in this journal, the easier and better it gets. There's no wrinkles now, and I'm really getting the hang of it. So I'm looking forward to that continuing throughout the year. Then of course you can just paint on it with a brush, like I'm doing here. Now, an interesting thing about white watercolor paint here is I don't use it that often because, as you can see, it just fades into the background. But if the paint is thicker, then it will go on brighter and whiter. You could also use acrylic paint if you wanted, or ink. One thing I like about doing doodles like this in my calendar type journal is it becomes a kind of reference of what I can do and something I continue to grow in throughout the year. Here's the gratitude page done. I'm looking forward to writing down things I am thankful for each month and all year on that page. I love making art with meaning, and a monthly Word of the Year page is a great way to do this. My word for this year is a prefix, RE, so each month I'll be featuring a new reword of the month. In the monthly Plan With Me Premium, questions and prompts are included so you can be inspired to bring your word of the year to life each month. Now for some practical workflow pages and weekly calendar pages. I'm going to use the same stencils I've been using, the handmade ones made in the Plan With Me Premium and the circle bubble stencils, as well as part of the script and grid stencil. And I'll be using these numbers from the stencil throughout my month for the calendar part. Okay, now I'm going on with the circle bubbles stencils and just really easily using my Cobalt Teal and then painting a few sections of Teal and Indigo, my colors of the month, at least my main ones, and then just doing these circle stencils around the page. And I'm continuing this throughout the rest of the pages for the rest of this month. Mixing more paint on my palette and then just brushing the excess on my sponge makes the paint go a little bit further. The colors I'm using are Cobalt Teal, Raw Umber, Permanent Scarlet, and Indigo Blue. Okay, this completes my pages for this month. And now going in with a micron pen, I think I'm using a 8 or a 5 size here, and I use various widths. You can just pick which one works for you. So now I'm going around just really loosely a border. I see I've gone right over those stencils there, which I didn't really mean to, and I thought, well, I'll see how that works. Now I've decided to make it a little shaded, a little more 3D with a brush pen. I do have the shades of gray set, but to be honest, I only use the 2 very lightest ones. So now I'm using my own personal reference from my doodle book, which I really would encourage you if you want to grow in your visual vocabulary. Keeping a doodle book is a great thing. Sometimes even if I'm just watching television or something, I'll take my doodle book and pick a page and pick a theme, and then I'll start looking things up on Pinterest and just doodle and doodle a page of themes. So you can see I use my snowflakes page as a reference for this. This journal also becomes a kind of reference for the themes I'm going to be using. You might guess that February will be hearts, so I'll be doing a doodle page on that, as well as doing different types of hearts throughout the month of February. Okay, I'm using a Pentel pen here, which is kind of like a gold ballpoint pen. It goes on really easy and nice. The color is not at all like my Jelly Roll pen, so I'm glad I have both. This is a little more yellow gold. Now for the workflow page for my other part-time job, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm really interested to see how these work pages are going to work for me throughout January. And I've left this blank page on the right side because we often take notes during the meeting for me to work on throughout the month. I got a little thick on that W, so I just went and made the rest of them thicker too. And now I'm going in with my black pen and then a white Signo pen for the snowflake. Now I can tell my Posca pen really shows up brighter on these, so it's the better choice, but it's running out. So I have a new one here now, and what a difference a pen with ink makes. I'm going in with a brush marker along the two sides to make it look more 3D in the boxes. And now I'm doing something I've never done. I am putting strips of very thin washi tape instead of lines to mark my days of the week. Why I'm doing this is because I'm not sure that I will really like this. So I thought if I don't want to write in each little space of the day, I could take the tape off, erase the lines, and just write down the whole page. And that way I won't have a bunch of blank spaces in my journal, which I dislike. It'll be interesting to see how this works for the month of January, and I'm sure will influence the choices in February, but I actually have no idea what it will be like. But what better time than at the beginning of the new year to try something new and see if it works. So that's what I'm doing here, and I hope that that's what we can all do this year. It will probably come in very handy since the world seems to have changed since we were here last year. Okay, here's my month at a glance, week by week, with a blank page on one side. And here's the finished pages. So here's the first, the cover, the calendar page, the gratitude page, the word of the month page that's also found in the Plan With Me Premium with the devotionals, the workflow pages, and the weekly calendar pages. Okay, I think that about sums it up for January. And I hope you've enjoyed this and are inspired to do your own calendar planning in your journal. You can bring your word of the year to everyday life with Plan With Me 2021. Find out more and sign up at ValerieShodine.com. Happy New Year!